some of our plans. But I'll go ahead and turn it over to Bessie and Gloria
Wonderful.
to kick us off with the introductions.
So Clara and Audrey, this looks like it's going to be a little bit more informal, a little bit more of a conversation. The thing about that that's lovely is I'm hoping we can answer your questions. So you're in the Dream Design Decide leveraging the 50,000 apportionments through partnership and peer learning. And so basically this is the workshop for our smaller programs, and what a heavy lift for our smaller programs. So that's where we're going to focus our conversation today. My name is Bessie Glossenger. I'm the regional county lead up here in Region 1, and I'm working out of the County Office of Education. And my colleague, I want to pass it to you.
And I am Melea Meyer, also from Region 1, focusing on STEAM Hub and the Sonoma County portion of our region. We're a 5-county region: Sonoma, Mendocino, Lake, Humboldt, and Del Norte. So if you're from that area, please reach out, and well, hopefully, again, we have such a small group, we can probably answer your questions today, or if not, connect you with someone who can. And we also like to collaborate with our friends across the mountains. And so I'll turn it over to Gloria to introduce herself. And Wendy, it looks like we have one more person just joining us. So thank you, Wendy, for joining us. If you want to introduce yourself in the chat. And Gloria, I'm going to pass it to you.
Thanks, Melea. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gloria Halley, and I'm the Region 2 lead for expanded learning programs with working out of the Butte County Office of Education. And I serve 9 counties, the 9 northern counties. So Butte, Glenn, Tehama, Shasta, Trinity, Siskiyou, Modoc, Lassen, and Plumas. And I've been doing this work for a number of years and was actually participating in Region 1 for a number of years as well. And I think since it's such a small group, I would love to hear where Clara and Audrey and Wendy, where you're all are from. So Clara, I'm gonna toss it over to you. Introduce yourself, which program you're working with, and if you know your region, let us know your region. Oh, don't forget to take yourself off mute.
I thought I did. Sorry. My name is Claire Gesford. I've been in the after school realm for about 16 years. This upcoming year, I'll be taking a new role, and I'll be the district expanded learning director for our school district. I am in Colusa County, Region 3, and I work at Pierce Joint Unified School District.
Welcome.
Welcome. Audrey, how about you?
My name is Audrey Hildebrand. I'm the director of the Freshwater After School Program here in Region 1, Humboldt County, Eureka, California. I started this last year as the director, working summer programs. It's a single school district here in Freshwater. So I've been working closely with the superintendent about expanding our after school programming into more enrichment for older kids, and then our after school program expanding with better staff and quality standards and stuff like that. So I'm just here to learn and figure all that out.
Great, thank you so much. Wendy, you put it in the chat that you're from San Mateo County Office of Ed?
Yes, I am. I'm just the executive director of district business services. So I just wanted to come in and listen, because I've got several districts that are only getting to 50,000 and they're very small districts. And I wanted to hear what other counties and districts are doing.
Very good, thank you. And we have a Zoom 13. If you're able to unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Sorry, Gloria, that's me.
Oh.
That's the, yeah. I should rename myself. Yeah, that's going to be my new nickname. My lucky number and my favorite place for workshops.
Okay, well, thank you all. And we hope to get down to some of your questions, especially since our group is so small. I think we can manage to do that. Thank you all. And again, I'd like to congratulate also Clara on your promotion. That's a very exciting. Okay. Melea?
Yeah, so thank you guys for sharing a little bit about what brings you here today. And hopefully we do have a small group, so I think we'll really have some time to dig deep into what's on your mind. And as you can see, we do support many different areas that have a lot of little small and one school districts. And may have some creative ideas that we can share that can help your ideas get flowing, to think about how you can use that 50K apportionment, and then also maybe some possibilities for future funding that are coming out that you could then braid together to supplement what you have going on, or the goals that you might have for your community. So you can see on your screen, some of our goals for our time together. If this was not what you came for, we do want to offer you an easy out, and we're not mad at you, and we still love you, and we'll be here for you anyway. But if there was something else you were expecting and you want to jump out to another workshop, now is the time to do so before we really get into the meat of what we're doing. Michael ended his keynote with lead with love, and that's something that Bessie and Gloria and I all really take to heart, and believe that that's what the power of this programming is. And it's really the power of what brought this program to fruition. So we know that it also brings a great deal of responsibility and planning and coordination and work on your part. So hope to know that we recognize the heavy lift that it is, and we're here to help. So I think, Bessie, you were going to take this one.
Yes, so I think that this was really well covered in the keynote. I know that many people are here. I'm so excited when we have business folk in the meetings with us. I think it's important that we're all kind of rowing in the same direction. And I know that many of you are here because you want answers and need parameters. But what we're really stressing right now, and I think, like I said, it was really covered well in the keynote, is to start with our why. So when we only have this 50,000, we're not dreaming as big maybe as some of the others, but for the first time, I mean, that's more money than our ACES or minimum funded ACES programs received in the past. So it's a good jumping off place. But before we get into all those details, we need to be asking ourselves, what do our children and families need? What kind of opportunities do they need, especially in these little rural pockets? What's possible? I know that people are really struggling with this concept, but if EDCO doesn't say you can't, you probably can. And that's a different approach than we've ever taken before. With that, how do we know what our communities want? Yes, many of us are of our communities and part of our communities. So it's easy to say, I know what my community needs, but we're also encouraging community assessments, need assessments, student surveys, family surveys, just town hall meetings. Just bring them together and find out what exactly it is that your community needs. Because from there, it's gonna, I believe from there, that jumping off point, you can have a clear vision of what it is you're trying to create, and then we can work backwards from there to figure out what we need to make that happen. So with that, we're going to move into our finding out what brings you guys to the table. So on our next slide, we're going to just have you guys do a poll, and the three of us, Gloria and Melea and I, we've done this workshop for, up to 50 participants. So we do this poll where we find out what's on everyone's mind. And these are the questions that we usually ask. I think there's few enough of us in the room that we don't need to do the poll. I think what we can do is have people come off mute, and I'm going to just read off some of the things that we have found that most people are coming to us with questions on. And because there's so few of us, if you're not one of the, if this isn't one of the questions you've come into this space with, bring to the surface another question that might be moving in you. So what we've found is most people want to know more about working with existing ACES and 21st century programs, or if you don't have current programs, that's, if you have a current ACES program, at least you're not starting from scratch. So some people want to know about working with their existing programs. Some people want to know more about the quality standards, which guides the work that we do. Some need some support and technical assistance around writing their ELO-P plans. Some want to look into and have more information around working with community partners. And then those 30 days of summer, those are really jumping out for our small programs as well, and that's on their mind. And then, of course, right now, not just in California, but staffing. And then in our smallest program, staffing really has come up as an issue. So with that, instead of jumping into that poll, if I can just call on you, we can do alphabetical order and just hear from you what brings you into this space. I mean, you have 3 regional leads that want to do nothing but one-on-one consultation for you right now. So with that, Audrey, what brings you, what's surfacing for you as far as what you would like to know more about with leveraging these smaller funding streams?
Basically we already run a program right now and we're not utilizing ACES or anything like that. It's just ground up from the school. It shut down during COVID. So I was brought on in August to kind of start up this new after school program. We're in a district that's K-8. The charter school, there's a charter 7th and 8th, but we have an elementary that's K-6. And then 7-8 is actually on our campus. And right now, our after school program is only for the incoming TK through 5th graders. The middle school kids didn't have much interest, and we didn't have the space staffing wise to accommodate older students as well. We have like 2 portable classrooms that we utilize for this group. So my main focus would be on the one hand, writing an ELO-P program plan with my superintendent, kind of meshing with him and getting this out to our board for approval. But then also just as far as what the after school program is able to do with meeting the quality standards. And then if we aren't, what could we facilitate in other enrichment programs that could fulfill certain standards? And then also staffing. Staffing for us is huge right now, retaining quality staff at these minimum wage rates. We're needing to hire people on at. I have a few stellar people on my team right now, and because of all the, county red tape with offering raises or incentives for them to stick around, I'm really concerned with turnover and having to retrain new people every season. So just as far as some of this funding that might be coming through, how can we get creative with stipends or assigning different roles to increase funding for retaining quality staff? That's kind of my bread and butter for meeting here today.
Thank you. And I'm busy taking notes. And we also have a note catcher document, and Melea, I think, was saying she's going to start capturing some of the things that are coming up. Many of what you've shared with us are things that have come up in other meetings for us. And I want to dive into solutions, but first I want to hear from everyone as far as what is coming to the surface. So thank you, Audrey, for starting us off. Clara, what's bringing you into this space?
We're also in a rural area, so there's a limited community partners to kind of assist us. We're run by the school district, and we currently have an ACES program that is TK through 8. Well, TK is new this year, obviously. For us, we actually are a school that pulls from a bunch of different areas. So we have 2 elementaries and a junior high school that is currently participating in ACES. And it's about maybe, I don't know, probably close to 800 kids maybe. So just being able to kind of navigate working with ACEs. It's with the same district. However, there's, one's kind of like, woohoo, let's be innovative and do what we need to do. And I'm embracing that. That's amazing. However, but still kind of like crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's for my ACEs, what we have to do for that. And just asking questions, since this is a new job for me, a new title, and ELO-P is new. Are the quality standards similar? Are they different? What is that? And just kind of trying to plan with partners and get ideas on how we could do something that's totally different outside the box, and getting maybe admins on board with letting you just go like, hey, let's make it happen. And then also just like everyone else, like Audrey, it's staffing. We are going from a program at one of our sites that's, grant for 84, we normally take 100, to going to almost 300 kids. And just having the staffing for that is scary. So that's pretty much what brings me here. I'm just ready to, dive in and collaborate and learn some new and exciting things, and hear what everybody else is doing to try to kind of figure out what we're going to do moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Melea, do you feel like you were able to capture some of that? Some of her questions?
I captured some of it. Yeah. And I'll clean up the notes a little bit better. So I'm hearing just some commonalities that are coming out around staffing. And just for some context, we have done this poll with, at this point, probably hundreds of people throughout the state. And those last two, creating quality summer programs and meeting that 30-day intercession requirement and staffing, are always our top two responses. So even if you might feel in a small space and isolated and alone, you're dealing with the same problems that everybody else is throughout the state, which doesn't make it easier, but it does mean that a lot of people are coming up with lots of really great and creative ideas. And also hearing that in some cases, there's a need to maybe convince admin or seek partners, and finding out ways to do that. And I think we can definitely share some more. We definitely have plenty of resources to help support that, and we can share some ideas that we're hearing in some of our sites. Also hearing with, I think, our smaller schools, we also are hearing this a lot, in ways to incorporate and really integrate those older students and make sure that they're also getting that support of this expanded learning vision. And I love how you're thinking there. We also, I think, have some ideas and examples. Audrey, I think, are we still waiting to hear from you? Or Bessie, was there anything else that I missed? I'm just trying to capture so that I can reflect back and make sure I'm capturing it in the notes as well.
I put, Clara had asked a question about the quality standards, and I put it in the chat. They are the same. ACEs quality standards are the same for the ELO-P program.
And then the only other thing that I would also encourage that we capture in the notes, Melea, is just the culture of ACEs and how we're viewing it now with the culture of ELO-P. And so we could speak to that as well, because the way we approached one in the past is kind of morphing to be better aligned with the other. So I think that's something we want to address. And then Wendy, I want to make sure that we capture any questions that you're bringing to the space, or anything that's coming up for you as well, before we get into more of a dialogue.
Sure. One of the things and you got, it may be in other places, but we have the voluntary pupil transfer, the Tinsley kids, or students, I should say. And so they're coming in from other districts into the smaller districts. And one of the things that was being a problem for the smaller districts is they're already on the bus, and making these programs, the days be 9-hour days. That's a situation they're not sure, because you can't expand those kids any longer on that bus and still want them to get some more intervention classes, whatever. And I'm sorry, I'm not a program person, so I may not pronounce everything correctly, but I have a gist.
Great. No, and I think that that is a very real question that's coming to the surface as well. And one of the things I'm hoping, Melea, we can also capture in the notes is just addressing that 9-hour day for frontier sites also, because there is some flexibility for frontier sites. I don't know if you qualify. So with that, Melea, do you want to bring us back to? I shared the notes document in the chat. So if anybody wants to look and see if there's something you want to add to that to make sure that we're capturing your questions, I'm just going to put that there because we could all have access to it and all have conversations. The way we had this set up was a little differently because we were going to send large people into breakouts. So we kind of more just captured individuals' questions. And the way we had it set up was looking at aspirational visions, and we kind of pivoted and went more to who's in the room and what are they asking. So with that,
so in that kind of spirit, I turned some of those questions into an aspirational vision, right? So looking for clear guidelines around transportation and that 9-hour day, particularly for frontier sites, an aspirational vision of aligning the two programs, ACEs and ELO-P, and then integrating older youth, and then the aspirational vision of a well-aligned program plan that's developed with community support and has superintendent approval. So does that kind of echo what you guys were hearing around the ask for what you're looking to know more about today?
Okay, so with that, I know that my colleagues and I all probably have some feedback on these, and I don't want to monopolize the space. One of the things I did want to just put out there as you were talking also about those of you who have transitional kindergartners is the full day programming for transitional kindergartners that is being looked at in the universal transitional kindergarten program. So that's a separate program than the ELO-P, and we have a workshop this afternoon if you have interest in looking at that as well. So I just wanted to put that out there. Was there one of these, and this question goes to my colleagues, is there one of these that are near to your heart that you would like to speak to? I can jump in with just the transportation and frontier one if you want to look over the other ones and identify one that you might want to speak to. Thumbs up. Okay, so just because it's low-hanging fruit, I was just going to say, yes. As far as being on that bus, in some of our programs, they're on the bus in the morning, some for up to an hour and a half, and then at the bus at the end of the day, up to an hour and a half, and then we're looking at this 9-hour day kind of sandwiched in the middle. If you qualify as frontier, meaning 11 people per square mile or less, and you can find that out on the CDE website. If you are distinguished or identified as a frontier site, you can shorten your program day if you're an ACEs program, and that also holds because it's in alignment. That's something you can look at. A 9-hour day, if you start morning program starting at 8:30, can be over at 4:30. But if you have an ACEs programming, you're used to going to 6 o'clock, you might say, well, wait a minute, if I have both of these programs working together, that doesn't line up. But where we want to go with that is, earlier I mentioned the culture. In the past, we were very compliance focused before we had a division for the expanded learning program. We now have a full division. In the past, we were we were an office within an office of CBE. And so with that, in the past, it was a very small group of people. We didn't have our vision statement created at the time, and we were really just monitoring, keeping people in compliance with their grants. After Michael Funk came on board, he helped, he guided the system of support into creating a vision. And with that vision, things changed over time. So we went from being very compliance focused, 5 days in seats till 6, to what do our families need? What do our children need? Now, EdCode didn't change. The culture changed. So Ed Code says if the children leave before 6, they need to use the early release code. With that, there's a lot of flexibility if you're just using your early release codes. So if there's a reason, be it the transportation, because they need to get on a bus early. And again, it's hard because I'm talking ACES program, not ELO-P, right? Because ELO-P is based on enrollment, not attendance. So ELO-P is based on enrollment, not attendance. But for creating this or co-creating this culture between ELO-P and ACES, please keep in mind that those early release policies, if they're board approved, for what reasons youth don't have to be there until 6, they can apply to everyone, and there can be a lot more flexibility in that. So if the getting on the bus to get home at a reasonable hour, or getting on the bus to get home before nightfall is something that's necessary, yes, somebody's at the campus keeping the room or the program open for the full 9 hours, but those youth can get on that bus when they need to get on that bus. That bus doesn't have to mimic or mirror the 9-hour ELO-P program. Yes, Gloria, I'd love to hand it over to you.
Okay, so years ago, there used to be programs down in Southern California who also would have to have their students ride a bus for an hour, hour and a half to get to their homes. And so what they started doing was doing enrichment activities on the bus. And that is allowable with the ELO-P program too. In Region 2, we have several programs who are going to be utilizing that time on the bus, in which they'll be doing some kind of an enrichment activity. So you might want to think about that, because that does clearly fit the 9 hours. You know, so if you run into some issues around that 9 hours, that's another way of looking at how to best use those the hour, hour and a half on the bus to qualify to fulfill the 9-hour requirement. And I know we have several programs in our region that are doing that.
So Gloria, was there any other of these that spoke to you that you wanted to speak or you wanted to address?
Yeah, there was another one. Let me look at the list on the.
I'll address integrating older youth into ELO-P.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, I'll do that one, and I'm going to hand it over to you. So okay. I'm just picking this one because, again, it's low hanging fruit in that the ELO-P funding is focused on that TK to 6. And when I know you don't see T or transitional kindergarten in anything, but the way the system of support for expanded learning views it is if it has a K, it's a K. Doesn't matter if there's a T attached to it, right? So those littles until 6th grade, that's where this funding is focused. Now, if you are able to enroll or meet the needs of your unduplicated youth from TK to 6, the money can still be for programming that goes above 6th grade. It's just the focus first, and the priority first has to go to those littles. So I don't know if that clarifies the question. Audrey, did you need any follow-up to that?
No, we actually already are serving TK. We have a TK program in our elementary school right now, so we do see a few of those kids in our programming. Just the superintendent has grand plans of incorporating some of our enrichment to include the upper elementary and middle schoolers that are still on campus, based on the needs some of the families have voiced, like wanting their kids to be able to have a homework club or take a cooking class or whatever else might be. So we are looking at incorporating the older kids, but I know our main need is to care for the younger and the littler ones and have programming available to them.
So one of the things that we really want to encourage while you're looking at the ELO-P and also that UTK plan is because, you know, we're in this breakout session because these are the 50,000 programs, right? These are not the large programs bringing in, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So what I want to encourage is to make that full day happen for the UTK. What other folks do you have on your campus? Do you have the state preschool on your campus? Do you have a Head Start? Do you have somebody that's doing a portion of that day or extended portion of that day, and then you're just doing those kind of that wraparound for the day? And the reason why I bring that up is because if that money can be, if you can be using that money in tangent together, that might also say, okay, we've met the requirement for the TK to 6, and we still have funds allowing us to keep our program rich for the older youth. And then the other thing that just to keep an eye out on, because this will pertain to you, is I know that Melea, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Assembly Bill 2501, but they're really trying to secure ACES funding now that we have the ELO-P funding. We're really trying to secure ACES funding for those older students, because originally when ACES was created, it was to meet those older students' needs between the hours of 3 and 6, right? To make sure that they had healthy choices and a safe place to be. So one of the things we're moving towards now that we have established this $1 billion worth of money for ELO-P is we don't want to lose our ACES funding, but we're hoping that we can redirect that ACES funding for those older students. Okay, so with that, Gloria, can I hand it over to you? Is there one on there that you wanted to address or tackle?
Yes, I just wanted to get clarification on, was it you, Audrey, who brought up the integrate older youth into ELO-P? Was that about being surveyed, getting their learning needs met, or was that about how to incorporate the older youth to possibly be tutors or mentors or actual staff, you know, that are paid stipends or internship? So I wanted clarification, Audrey, if that was your question.
Oh, if I was asking about how to provide enrichment classes for older kids or how to utilize them, is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, so I didn't know whether you wanted them to be the recipient of the services or you wanted them to be involved to address maybe staffing issues. And that way, because we are really encourage that students, high school students, be part of the staffing. And so I was just trying to get clarification about what your question was.
Oh, well, on our end at our particular school, we're looking at offering enrichment programming to the students here. So 7th and 8th grade would be recipients, but I am utilizing and always interested in having upper graders that are already kind of student teacher helpers, and then high school kids, or once they've exited our school here, coming back on as like junior summer camp counselors and those kind of stuff. So I'm actually interested in utilizing both directions, but
Okay.
just as our school being a K-8 technically, being able to offer some sort of services to all of the students that are here.
Great, because I know that we hire a lot of students, high school students as tutors and mentors. And what we found is that if you have the high school students coming over to the middle school students or elementary school students, especially the middle school, they actually become like a peer that they can trust when they make the transition from middle school to high school. It's like, oh, I already know someone, you know, and they're a junior, and they kind of get them ready for that high school environment. So, but we really encourage that, you know, the high school students be more involved with your middle school students or elementary, again, and paid positions, you know, to be tutors or mentors, or come in and maybe they have, for example, then maybe they like working with cameras and they like teaching around the arts, or maybe they have experience using drones and they want to come in and provide some of that enrichment for the younger students. So it's just another way. I just wanted to get clarification on that. So, and there's already job descriptions if you guys need some of that kind of information.
Okay, wonderful. That's a great idea. Thank you.
And I see
So
that
I
Clara
was-
has her hand raised.
Thanks, Gloria.
Yes, I kind of typed it in the chat. I'm interested in hearing about how you guys work out hiring high school students, actually paying them. I mean, I've been able to get volunteers, but just navigating that, I know the money is there now with the ELO-P program. So just how you guys kind of navigate it or frame that to kind of make it happen.
Well, what I'll do
I'll
is,
share. Oh,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say what I will do is right now I'll try to look for the job descriptions, but we've been doing this for like 8 to 10 years and the HR adopted the job descriptions, and so we float them around our county office, and I've sent them out to other county offices of ed and programs. So let me see if I can find one, and if I do, I'll send it to, I think, Melea to put I'll figure it out.
Yeah, so what I was just going to say, what I'm going to commit to in this notes document as well is linking in some resources attached to these specific questions. So I'll put those job descriptions. We also have an apprenticeship program plan and system that's already in use in some of our other programs. BACR is a big organization that does this, and they work with their districts to pay high school youth in their programs. They have high school youth at 16 years old starting to work in the programs. And there's even a system sponsored by the California Foundation, or the Foundation for California Community Colleges, called Career Catalyst. And they can even act as the employer of record. So there are a lot of avenues, like for the potential barriers that your district might put up, right? They say, well, we don't want to handle the admin. Oh, well, there's Career Catalyst. Like, that's everything creates another step for you to do, right? Putting out a job description and creating a job is easier said than done in some cases. But there are also options of creating stipends or creating what you might call scholarship award opportunities, right? For maybe your dual enrolled students. And so you're not necessarily paying the student, but they're getting a scholarship. So I think there are a lot of creative ways that you can think about what it's called and what that looks like. And a lot of more things are allowable with ELO-P because they're local decisions and everything does have to be board approved. And Bessie, yes, I saw you were, I'm going to turn it.
Well, the other thing that I would recommend, because it could just take an MOU, is to work with, if you have workability. If you have workability students at your high school, I've worked on a high school campus in an infant, toddler, young parent program where I had workability students come in. I signed their time card. You can do the MOU. I see Clara thumbs up, they do workability. So basically there's already an infrastructure to get the youth the funds. You do the MOU, moving some of your ELO-P funds to them for their workability students, and then you bring them on. Now we all know that affects quality of the programs, right? That to have increased numbers of folk working with the youth. But we also know that they don't count in your ratios, but it does influence quality. And as a result, it's a way that you can spend your funds. I just wanted to add that. So much richness in the room. I also wanted to let you guys know, let me put my hand down. So we have a couple new people in the room, a couple new folk. Danielle, your hand is up. I want you to know that also the slide deck has been added to the chat box, and the notes of that folks' questions has also been added to the chat if you want to add anything. Danielle, please.
Hello, everyone. Sorry I jumped in late, but I was in a different one that I kind of shopped around and found this one thinking it might be a better fit for what I'm trying to do. Something that I was gonna add to is that at a lot of our sites, I'm switching positions from a district coordinator to a county consortium coordinator at this point. But when I was the district coordinator, we started hiring high school students in our programs, and we pulled it was a small pool, but we utilized those where they were 18 years old and hadn't yet graduated, but we could fingerprint clearance them, and we had them complete the paraprofessional exam, so that we are hiring high school students, but they also do count in our ratios, and we're able to just pay them. So again, it limits the number of high school students we were able to hire, but I mean, even just adding, I think right now we've got 3 that are currently working in our sites for our district. 3 staff right now is sadly, that's making a big difference in some of our programs because of how understaffed we are. So just thought I'd throw that out there too.
And that's
Thank you
wonderful.
for sharing that. I was going to say that's exactly what BACR does. And it does require getting that board approval to change the minimum requirement. And this is something that a lot of districts are under the impression that that 18-year-old requirement is part of ed code. It's not, it's a local decision. And it obviously, you know, high school diploma, someone who's 18 years old is preferable, and a 16-year-old junior counselor cannot be left alone with students. You still have to be 18 to be meeting for any of that one-on-one. So they have to be under the supervision of someone 18 or older, but they can add, you know, these amazing elements because maybe they're youth who are really gifted in sports or art or music, or, you know, and they can bring that piece to the students while you have an older site coordinator or staff who's maintaining the safe space and, you know, all of the other pieces that need to be in place for quality programming.
Oh. So with that, Danielle, did you, because we were capturing people's questions of what brought them into the space, what is coming up for you as far as questions that you might have that pertain to the 50,000, the smaller settings? And then the other thing I just wanted to comment as you're thinking about that question is that in what we find are more rural programs, or smaller districts, we really have to be growing our own. You know, there are staff that I came up, I mean, my colleagues on the Zoom, they know this, I've said it many times, but I came up working through Girls Incorporated in Alameda, and then as a junior leader, and then a hired employee, and so forth and so on. And here I am, you know, 25, 30 years later, still in the field of youth development. So we really do need to grow our own. And this is a wonderful opportunity to be able to do that we didn't have before. So with that, Danielle, was there anything else that brought you to this space? If you had any other questions that we could add to our notes.
Well, basically, I'm very familiar with expanded learning programs. I've been overseeing my districts. We had 12 expanded learning sites that I oversaw for our district. And then I recently just switched over to our county office of ed. And the way that we are kind of leveraging our funds is because a lot of our small one-site districts don't have any expanded learning programs currently, and to $50,000 seems like a lot of money, but to create a program from start, you know, ground up, it's not a lot of money. So we created this consortium where basically we pulled all of those funds together, and then we're going to be staffing, and then kind of this year what we're going for is like a lending library kind of model of resources, so that we can kind of, again, make the most out of our funds, and help those smaller schools kind of get started with the smaller pool of money. So that's kind of where I was at, is just kind of see, like, we're already in that world right now, but I wanted to, I saw the title here and was thinking that if somebody has some more ideas that I haven't thought of, that I'd love to be able to add those to my backpack, so to speak.
And Danielle, because I mean, everyone's tired of hearing it, but we are building the plane while we're flying it, right? And as a result, I would love to see your consortium model. As far as the county office that I work for, it's something that we've thought of. There are districts that were concerned that they wouldn't be able to do it solo and want to do a consortium model. So my contact information, I can share it with you in the chat, and it's also on the PowerPoint. But I would, if once that's developed, if you're willing to share, I would love that as a regional lead to share with other folk. And you know, if you have multiple sites with that 50,000 and you combine it, they can serve the youth at one site. There's very creative ways that we can do this. Some folks are saying, I don't have the staff or the space. The space, we haven't even talked about the space yet, because that really didn't come to the surface for some, for folk on this call. But some people are just like, I don't have the space to do this. So because their campuses are so small. So again, consolidating, bringing the money into one site or where the highest need is for unduplicated youth, and then also identifying where the space is available to have the program move there. And I really liked, I don't know if you guys picked up, well, of course, Michael's a great storyteller, and the nuance of it's practice. We're practicing, and we might not get the full 30 days of summer right now, or we might not get the full 9-hour days, but we're moving towards that, or we might not get the full enrollment that we want, but we're moving towards that. As long as we're doing all of those things to work towards that, and then fine tuning it as we get closer to our auditable year. With that, can I hand it over to my colleagues if there were other things that hadn't been addressed yet? Or and if you feel that things have all been addressed, then maybe one of you can open it up to the room.
I just think that if there's some questions still unanswered, that you bring them into this space so that we can share with what we've been learning throughout this process. Is there anything that has not been addressed, or you feel like we could go deeper? Wendy, are you getting your needs met? Do you feel like you have the grasp of what you need to take? You're talking about students, you know, on the busing, and we gave you a couple ideas about how to use that bus time. Is there anything else that stands out for you?
Not at this time. I'm just enjoying listening to all the suggestions that has been going on. And those are some of the things that I can take back and let my CBOs know that here's another resource for you to look at. And here's some other suggestions that have been given that are actually out there happening. So I just appreciate being able to listen to what's going on.
Okay, great, great.
Do we want to jump over to our resources? Melea, you have a amazing collection here of resources. Well, I mean, the team has put together an amazing collection of resources. And maybe as we're looking at these, are most of you opting the more stricter grant? And so maybe we can look at those, and of course, we can bring forward the chat question as well before we jump into resources. I think as we're looking at the resources, I haven't even had a chance to look at the new FAQs. I'm so excited to go over there and take a look at that. And then Clara brings forth in the chat, are most of you adopting the more stricter grant reporting requirements so you cover what is needed? I would love a little bit more on that. When you say stricter grant reporting requirements, do you mean those of ACEs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and
yes, because I currently have an ACEs program, so in my mind, I can't like wrap around like if I still have to have those same reporting things for ACEs. I mean, I can't really have ELO-P over here. Like, oh, everybody kind of. I mean, I realize we're going to be really kind of liberal with the early release. We already are at our site, so that I get. I'm just talking about like the reporting for auditing purposes later. I mean, I know right now we're practicing. I just want to make sure I practice that too.
And again, remember,
I love how you adopted that immediately. Sorry, Bessie, I don't mean to jump.
No, please.
I just lost what I was going to say too. It flew right out of my mind. We were most of the programs that have existing programming, you're only at a 50,000 apportionment, you're already serving and meeting the ELO program requirement anyway. So chances are the ELO-P funding is going to hopefully to your raise that came with your promotion, right? And it can go towards increasing that quality and just making sure, so if you're finding like, wow, there are more unduplicated students than we thought that aren't being served by ACEs, like, how do we increase those services? How do we improve them, right? So it might not even be, if you have that existing ACEs program, most of our schools are sticking with the reporting requirement, the reporting systems, the attendance tracking systems, right? Those things that are already in place because it's easy for them to do so. So because why try to make it, if anything, those requirements may loosen up in the future around ACEs, but for now, if you already have a system that's working, stick with it. If it's not working, if it's too restrictive, it's a good time to look at that as well, right? If it's not working for your sites or your families, then this is the time to think about those kind of flexibilities as well, I think.
I think that that's a good way just to track them as well, because we know that enrollment is all that is required for ELO-P. So at this point, the proof of enrollment is the only thing that's required. But I, as an individual, would want to know who's showing up, where my kids are, and who am I responsible for. So with that, I wouldn't recreate the wheel, supporting what you and Melea are already saying.
So I can kind of, when you were talking about that with the ACES program, we were doing that at almost all of our sites where they had a current operating ACES program, and then we were adding these ELO funds. And we kind of just did a little compromise on both ends where we revamped our early release policy to more align with the less strict ELO-P. So we kind of made it just there. Our number one section was family schedule. If your family schedule meets with you being able to pull your kids out earlier, and that was something that over the years we had kind of removed because we were trying to get those kids to stay later because we were trying, we wanted that 5:30 time frame. So that was something that we did, and then stick with the ACES side of it, just so that you're safe. You're already used to that. So that's kind of what we've been doing with our funding. I'm hoping that the ACES will kind of start lending itself, like realizing that it is better to have less red tape associated with these funds. And I'm hoping that that's where ACES is going to start heading. So, but better safe than sorry is my philosophy.
And I think for so long, because it was a voter initiative, that was why it had to be so closely monitored, because we had to show to the voters that they were getting the money, their money's worth. And I think that it's a different mindset at this point. I need to do a time check with my team. As far as we have 10:50, it's our closeout. We're at 10:58. Melea, can I hand it over to you for these resources before we jump off? Because I don't think that they should be overlooked.
I am sorry. I thought we were going till 11:30, but yeah. So we do have, as you can see.
I thought we were going to 11:30 too.
That's fine. I'm just looking at the slides and I was like, wait a minute. I'm supposed to be on slide 10 at 10:50.
So for full transparency, they were like, your workshop could be 10 people or it could be 110 people. We just don't know. So we had to plan, just like you guys, right? You have to plan for 15 different scenarios. We planned for 100 people, and we're so happy to have 4 of you here with us, because this is much more our style. All of us, we really do a lot of one-on-one and small group technical assistance and coaching, and that's when the real thinking comes out. So there are a lot of resources here. We know that a lot of this is really drinking from a fire hose, but I'm going to just walk through real quickly what what's there so you can sort out what you may or may not want to use. This top one is, regional contacts. I know one of Claire, I think you're in Region 3. So Mark Drews is your guy, and he's actually looking for someone to bring into his team. So if you know anyone who has a teaching credential and wants to go into supporting programs at the county office level, spread the word. I believe he has a position out right now, but he's definitely will be on your team. He's also really collaborative. Mark and I and Gloria and Bessie, we all collaborate together. So you're kind of close to our region. So I'm happy to adopt you as one of our smaller schools. We like taking orphans in Region 1, and we're always happy to support all the other regions. And especially, Region 3 doesn't have a ton of rural schools. So we actually collaborate a lot with Mark on those things. The Small School Districts Association, if you don't already know about it, Jim Taylor is an amazing resource and advocate for small schools. I believe his advocacy may even grow in coming years. We'll come to see that. Gloria can speak a little bit more about that resource. The quality standards are there. As we said, same quality standards. They always apply. The main thing to remember about the quality standards is that they are an aspirational vision, and you do your best and pick 1 or 2 a year to focus on. You don't try to do all the quality standards all at once. They're broken down into point of service standards, and then, serve standards focus just kind of on the business side of the house. So you can also break them down in that way, which ones are relevant to your staff and which ones are relevant to you as a decision maker. This is a small sample budget of a 1-year expanded learning program running at a small charter school. Link to the FAQs page that Michael mentioned in his keynote. This is an amazing spreadsheet. I just have to show this because I'm just so amazed. Those of you who love spreadsheets and want to see all of the funding in the whole state for all of the ELO-P programs, you can find that right here. So every region, their funding is listed on this spreadsheet for ELO-P. All of the UPP counts, what kind of school it is, existing ACEs funding, the percent that you have to increase. So if you love spreadsheets, pour yourself a cup of tea or whatever it is that you want to drink while you review spreadsheets and take a look at this one, because it's pretty good. And if you support a lot of schools, it's a great go-to place to see those funding levels as they stand right now. School meals didn't come up for you guys, but that's a big one for our small schools. And this is just a sample copy of the Universal School Meals Guidance that recently just came out. Sorry, it's taking a million years to load, so I'm not going to subject you to my Wi-Fi speed, though you're all familiar with rural Wi-Fi out there, I'm sure. We have another page if you're looking for the National Summer Learning Association, great ideas for summer programming, UPK, FAQs. Thank you, Gloria. I'll make sure that gets into the notes. This email address here will go directly to Sterling and Jen Taylor. They are answering most of the questions at the CDE. And even more resources. So the Expanded Learning Division has their office hours every Friday. So if something's coming up and you want an answer, you can go to these office hours, and they're pretty good about answering those in real time. The fireside chats are coming out, I believe, this afternoon. We'll all be witnessing a live fireside chat, so if you want to see what that's about. And I'm going to actually pass it over to Gloria to talk a little bit more about some of the other resources here. If you are hiring new staff and are looking for a great way to get them trained, the Site Coordinator Symposium, June 14th and 15th will be virtual, and 16th and 17th is in Sacramento. So this is a great opportunity to really be surrounded by site coordinators and folks who've been in the field for years and really have a lot of great promising practices to share. So if you've got new staff and you can afford to send them to the Site Coordinator Symposium, we really encourage you to do so. And then also the Community Schools Conference is coming up. I added a resource for that, but the Community Schools Grant Program is another big funding priority that they're putting forward towards this Transforming Schools initiative and towards universal school meals and whole child health, universal pre-K, universal expanded learning. So that vision is also being funded not only by this ELO-P funding, which is unprecedented, but by this community schools program. And there will be a new round of grant applications for LEAs coming up in the fall. And it's about $100,000 a year. So it will be another great braid of funding. It can support early learning. It can support community education programs, adult education, parent engagement. There's so many things it can be used for. So if there are parts of your vision that you're saying, gee, I wish there was another program or funding source that I could leverage, the community schools program might be the one for you. And I know a lot fewer applicants came in this year. Linda Darling Hammond was disappointed at the amount of applications that came in. So you met her this morning. You want to make her happy. She loves kids, right? So I am doing an infomercial now for the Community Schools Partnership Program. And I encourage you you saw it here first, friends, but it is a great opportunity coming up in the fall. So keep out looking for that if you get bored after implementing your amazing ELO-P program plans and you want to write another plan. There's more for you. So Gloria, I'd love to turn it over to you because I know you plugged in some of these resources as well. So is there anything that you want to add about the resources that we have available or that are available to our districts and small schools?
No, you covered the one with the Small School Districts Association. And that Tim Taylor used to be my superintendent, and we're working very closely to support the very small ELO-P sites. The only thing I would say is just if you have a way of asset mapping your communities, you'd be surprised how many assets are really in communities that you may not have ever worked with. That's what we're finding up here, is we actually have folks who own horses that are willing to give lessons to have young students learn how to ride a horse or take care of a horse. Your 4-H is a great partner. Right now, the National Forestry Departments are really eager to help address climate change and are eager to show young people, you know, what you're going to inherit this earth. What are you doing now or could be doing? And like I formed a partnership with the Bay Aquatic Center here in the Orville area. And they teach them, and this takes care of a 9-hour day, to be perfectly honest. They teach them how to do water safety. They do canoeing, and I wish they did jet ski because I'd be out there, but they do, you know, canoeing and what's the other one? Anyways, they do all kinds of things. And there's like $1 charge per student. It's just amazing the partnership we've been able to establish. So think about your Parks and Rec. They're eager to support, especially summer programming. And some of them actually have money this year. They've been given some money from other resources. And so just be really clever. And even parents are saying, well, nobody asked me, but I'd like to help. You know, I do crocheting or I do quilting, and, you know, I would love to come in and do that. In Happy Camp, where I was the last couple of days, we're taking them and looking at perhaps doing a sweat lodge and having the students build it for the first time. And so just tapping into their own culture and their ancestry. And so just, you know, I think it's just, one thing I have to say is I think it's about leadership, to be perfectly honest. You know, we need to show up as leaders and what we can do for our students and tap into your why. I know that's a big one for me, is that having been raised by 2 parents, one who had only 3 months of schooling in Mexico, and then having my mother who only had 6 years of schooling here in the States. It has been something for me is to always look at education as a way to break down barriers. And for me, it's also about breaking the generational poverty cycles and for some of our students. And so that's what drives me in my work, is because I know the trajectory that education can give our students to lead stronger, healthier lives that don't have the issues around poverty are so important. And so I just think this is not something we can walk away if we truly believe in our young people. And so we just need to get on board with what else can we do? What else do they need? And asking them, what would you enjoy doing? You might have a baker in your neighborhoods and they'd be willing to come in and show them how to bake great chocolate chip cookies or photography. Like I said, you know, those are great skills to learn these days. So just, you know, there is no limit. I always think about if someone were to give me like a Sir Optimus Club or a Rotary Club, and they make those great big gigantic checks. If they were to come here and give me $50,000, I would never turn them away. I just will thank you so much for believing in our young people. So this is a time where we need to really stick to our whys and look at the who in our communities can be a part of this. And so I really hope that you guys, you know, take this very seriously. I know you do, because that's why you showed up today. And if there's anything that we can do, you have our contact information, I think, on one of our slides, right, Melea? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so you have this slide deck. I'll go ahead and put it in the chat again with all of those resources. The notes document is linked to that. And you know, without having to layer too many things, too many clicks for you, but trying to just keep track of all the great thinking that came out today. And I want to also remind you all that, you know, to really like reach out to all of the partners you can think of and really think out of the box about that. You know, sometimes there are people just waiting to step up, and you never know who they are. And they might be among your parents, they might be among your students or your paras, or, you know, even your business community. And the one thing I do know about small towns is that there are a lot of resourceful and creative and innovative people in small towns, because that's the only way you ever get anything done when there are only 800, 900 people living around you. So I think that this kind of programming is like, you know, particularly a great resource for our small communities who already know how to come together in times of struggle. They know how to support each other. And that's what this is all about. It's all about that possibility of what we can do and how we can really grow our communities to be resilient, because we know that there are more challenges coming in the future. We can guarantee that. And we can't do it alone, and you're not alone. So I know sometimes it can feel like you're making a lot of big decisions and you might be operating without a lot of support, but.
Sorry, could you say that again? I'm
Yes.
having trouble hearing you.
Yes, Siri, there's support for you too. Anyway, sorry about that. So if you don't have somebody locally, reach out to us. We're always there, at least virtually, for you. And, you know, there are probably more partners out there than you might even know of right now. So don't be afraid to ask, and don't be shy, because people want to do good things for kids. 100%. If I know anything, I know that. And if they don't, no one will admit that they don't want to do good things for kids anyway. So, you know, you can always, at least people shame them into it. So, Gloria, thank you again for that tutor description. And we'll continue to actually add that apprenticeship program. And Bessie, it looked like you had something else you wanted to say.
Well, I was gonna, one of the resources, the page before this last one, was just the CAN, the California After School Network website. Most people know that as a resource, but they have a whole ELO-P page on there, and they're updating it pretty regularly. And updates, they can do updates faster than sometimes the Expanded Learning Division itself. So always go to that ELO-P, and then to the left, there's you'll see where they're updating things. Again, they don't have the same requirements as far as getting information out. It doesn't have to go through the same process as it sometimes has to at the state level. So they're able to turn around information to you really quickly. I just wanted to put that out there. I would also invite folks, if you guys want to stay, we have an additional 15 minutes in this room, and I'm willing to stay and have communication or and problem solve and share resources and ideas. But I also know that because today was designed for a large group, that we kind of already walked through our materials. So I don't want to hold you captive, but and with that, I have other thoughts that came up when Gloria was talking about the creative ways that some of our districts are doing things. And I would love to share some of those with you. We have one district that's doing some amazing stuff around 5 hours, they're doing 2 weeks of, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's like a jump start at the beginning of the year, and then 2 weeks after the school day closes or the school year closes, they're doing 2 weeks there, 2 weeks before school as a jump start, and then they're doing Saturday excursions because that's what their community needs. Their community doesn't need 30 solid days of expanded learning during the summer, but they want these 2 weeks before the school year starts, 2 weeks after the school year starts, and then these Saturday excursions. So people are getting really creative. So with that, Gloria, I saw your hand up, and again, I am willing to, of course, stay in this space and answer any questions that come up. Gloria?
I guess I don't know how to, once I get the Google Doc, to share it. Did you get it, Clara? Were you able to access it now?
Let me check.
Okay, and so Melea, what do I have to do? So I put it in the Google Doc, but how do I get it to share? I thought I did it, but I hit the share, but how do I get
now? I got it now.
Oh, okay. So
Thank you.
Okay.
If you put the link in the chat, I put it in the notes.
Okay.
And actually the program plan for the site that Bessie was talking about is in there as well. So if you want to take a look at how that even is written out around the quality standards, it's pretty amazing, this program plan. It is a small community, back. It's tiny, believe me. So if they can do it, you guys can do it for sure.
Where is that?
Let
What
me
are you?
see.
Where's the
Where
link?
is that?
Yeah, I think that link should work. If you would just want to double check, that's Cuddyback's ELO-P program plan. And I do have permission from Rhonda to share that. So just, of course, don't make any edits. If you do want to use any of it for your own purposes, please make a copy for yourself. And one thing that's a little bit different from the ACES plans, which is kind of striking people differently, is that these are public. These will be posted on your district website. They do have to be board approved. We suggest that that happens by the June board meeting this year. And because they're public documents, your parents can read them, your community can read them. So plans that you might be used to writing where you feel like you're trying to maybe work towards an audience that understands like education, speak, and lingo, I encourage you to leave that out of this plan. Write it as straightforward in language, similar to how you want to write your parent LCAP kind of materials, in language that anybody can pick up and understand what they're getting. Because essentially your program plan is that public document that people will go to and look at and see how this source of funding is being used. I know Michael brought this up, but it is after being in a statewide conference last week with people from all over, not a statewide, a national conference last week with people from all over the country. The amount of funding coming out for this kind of programming is truly, truly groundbreaking and unprecedented, and more than all of our other US states combined. So this is a huge investment. People are looking at California to see what's happening, and we have been working our butts off tirelessly to make this happen for years and years and years. So yeah, Audrey.
I have a question. So as far as, the funding comes through, we've got these creative ideas of how to put this money to use. One quick thing, yes or no, can some of it be like stipends for staff retention? Is that like employment staffing? Is that part of what the funding can be utilized for?
Absolutely. That's a local decision. If that's what you write in your program plan and your board approves it, then that's what you can do with the funding.
Okay, wonderful. And then the other question is, as far as like getting audited goes in 23, 24, whenever that's coming to fruition, what sort of things, like how do you document what you need to document for the auditors? Like I've got an application that we use for enrollment and registration. I can pull numbers from there. Depending on what our programs look like, I can say we've got XYZ programs. These are our numbers there. What other kinds of things are going to be audited that we should be able to track? Quality
So-
standards, like how do we do that?
So what Sterling is saying, Sterling and Jen, who are writing the audit guide right now, that audit guide is being based off of the ed code. So that section of the law and the things that are listed in the main requirements. So they're going to be looking at your enrollment forms to see if you're meeting that offer and access or the offer requirement. They'll be looking at your community or your family outreach materials, and are they culturally and linguistically appropriate for your families, just
Okay.
like your other parent communication, right? So it has to be in the languages, as long if you have whatever it is, right? 20% or 30%. Yeah. They'll be looking that your schedules are meeting that 9-hour day requirement. So what are the program offerings? What do they look like? And those should be easily found on the website. Again, that's an access piece. So similar to like when a district has to think about how to make their board meetings accessible, the best practice is that it's one click away.
Okay.
So your parents shouldn't have to dig through a bunch of stuff to find out about the programming. They should know that it's there. Those will be things the auditor is going to look at. Your general ledger audit will contain ELO-P expenditures because it is one of the funding, one of the source codes for funding that's coming in from the CDE. So your expenditures will be looked at in that way, but there's really no other kind of expenditure approval process. So unlike ACEs, where you would have to reach out to your regional lead and your EXL team, can I spend money on this? Your expenditure approval is, does it meet the ed code? And is it board approved? Because the assumption is that your board and your superintendent is holding that adherence to ed code, LCFF, and LCAP requirements. Yes.
And yeah, if people need that in writing, the new FAQs has it. The new FAQs are beautiful. I wish I had time to look at them before our meeting today. But when you go into allow, so if you click on there, Melea, right there, FAQs, and then you go to the, this is beautifully set up. Oh, not that, I'm sorry. The other one, go back to the other page, back to the other page, right there, yeah. This is beautifully set up and it just spells out what's allowable and what's not. So go to allowable uses, click on there. And then what Melea said, it's right there under 18. So 18 is, scroll down to 18 and it's just perfectly right there for you guys. There we go. So 18, what are the allowable expenses? And just as Melea said, board approved, and as long as you put it in there. So we know an audit guide's going to come and that's going to give us more parameters, right? We know that for the future. But for now, let's say you don't get something in your program plan, just like we did with ACEs before. Update your program plan, living document, bring it back to your board, have your board approve it and move it forward because what you say you're going to do in that program plan is what you're going to be held accountable to for now. When the audit guide comes out, maybe they'll give us more clarification on that. But for now, local decision, you're going to capture it in that plan. Does that make sense?
So around expenditures as well, I just put a link to the California Schools Accounting Manual. And you still have to adhere to those guidelines and those things are going to cover like, no, you cannot buy a new building or a truck. Like, you know what I mean? So you're still adhering to those basic standards. Those still apply to ELO-P. Your business office should be familiar with those. So like, yeah, we say be creative, but be creative within the standards of the California School Accounting Manual. It doesn't sound as exciting, right? But you know, the basic ed code obviously always will still apply.
These are just, I'm looking at these new FAQs and I'm so excited that this kind of level of clarification is coming up. That's all.
Well, I have 11:25. So we have 5 more minutes, but we can let you guys out early. If everybody's good to go. We certainly appreciate your time with us today and hope that you found it meaningful. And again, feel free to reach out to us. We support one another across the state with other regions, so don't hesitate.
And if we can't find the answer, we can find someone
Who does
hopefully
have the
who can.
answer?
Yeah. Thanks so much for taking your time with us today. It was really great to
Yeah.
hear from you, and we love answering questions when we can.
And
Thanks,
Audrey,
everyone.
you're in our region, so definitely whenever you have any questions, read it.
Yeah, I wrote down your guys' emails. Thank you very much. I'm sure I'll have lots of questions.
Awesome. Great. All right. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Bye.
hopefully take a nice lunch break, and then the lunch plenary starts at 12:15, and then workshop sessions back at 1.
Okay,
Thanks, everyone.
thank you.
I'm
Okay, I'm gonna stop
enjoying the
recording.
FAQs. What does it